Imagine waking up at 4 a.m. to study in your convent, only to stumble upon something so disturbing that it would cost you your life. Now imagine your killers going free for 28 years, while everyone who tried to find justice for you was silenced, threatened, or worse. This happened to Sister Abhaya in 1992. Her body was found in a convent well, hastily declared a suicide, and her case was almost forgotten. But a single-minded activist named Jomon Puthenporakul made her case his life's mission, facing death threats and institutional resistance for nearly 3 decades until the truth finally emerged in a courtroom in 2020. This is how justice arrived 10,227 days too late. March 27, 1992, started like any other day at St. Pius a Convent in Kottayam, Kerala. The morning prayers, the routine chores, everything followed its usual rhythm until someone noticed Sister Abhaya wasn't at her post. A 19-year-old novitiate known for her punctuality and dedication. Her absence immediately triggered concern among the other nuns. Their worry turned to horror when they discovered her body floating in the convent well. The scene around the convent told a story that didn't match the quick conclusions officials would soon draw. In the kitchen, an open refrigerator door stood ajar. Water had spilled across the floor, and one of Sister Abhaya's slippers lay discarded nearby. Her other slipper was found by the well, silent witnesses to what truly happened in those early morning hours. Yet within hours, local authorities were already pushing a narrative suicide. But the evidence simply didn't align with this hasty conclusion. The first post-mortem examination revealed troubling injuries to Sister Abhaya's head, wounds inconsistent with a simple fall into a well. There were deep lacerations and contusions that suggested something far more sinister. Despite these red flags, local police officer V.V. Augustine seemed determined to close the case as quickly as possible, declaring it suicide without a proper investigation. Even more disturbing was how quickly crucial evidence began to disappear. Sister Abhaya's diary, which might have contained vital clues about her state of mind or potential conflicts, vanished without explanation. Her clothes were inexplicably burned. Within days, almost every item that could have shed light on what happened to the young nun had been systematically destroyed or contaminated. Fellow nuns who had seen Sister Abhaya's body noted injuries that curiously never appeared in official reports. Bruises on her neck, marks on her chest, details that suggested a violent struggle rather than a desperate act of self-harm. The photographer called to document the scene captured images that told a different story than the official narrative, showing injuries that were conspicuously absent from the post-mortem report. Those who knew Sister Abhaya found the suicide theory particularly baffling. She had set her alarm early that morning to study, a common practice for the academically diligent young woman. When her room was examined, her study materials remained open on her desk, an unlikely scenario for someone planning to end their life. As one local resident put it, "Why would a girl who sets an alarm to wake up early and study suddenly decide to kill herself?" In a small town in Kerala, while authorities were quick to dismiss the suspicious death of a young nun, one ordinary citizen was about to make an extraordinary decision. As higher-ups pushed for closure and evidence mysteriously vanished, Jomon Puthenporakul formed an action committee in 1992, determined to challenge the official narrative. This simple act of defiance would transform a local activist into the central figure in one of India's longest-running battles for justice, a fight that would consume nearly 3 decades of his life. Puthenporakul's first victory came when his persistent petitioning forced authorities to transfer the case from local police to the crime branch on April 16, 1992. His hope for a thorough investigation was quickly crushed when the crime branch reached the same conclusion: suicide. But where others might have accepted defeat, Puthan Parakal only intensified his efforts. By 1993, his relentless pressure paid off when the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, took over the case. Yet even this elite investigative agency's first team produced a frustratingly ambiguous report claiming they couldn't determine whether the death was suicide or murder. The courts themselves found this conclusion unacceptable and rejected the report outright. A second CBI team formed, and by 1997 they reached a slightly different conclusion. Sister Abhaya's death appeared to be a homicide, but in a baffling twist they claimed they couldn't identify any suspects. The investigation seemed designed to circle endlessly without resolution. Then came a shocking revelation that validated Puthan Purakal's suspicions of a cover-up. Former CBI officer Vagisi P. Thomas went public with a stunning admission. He had resigned 9 years before his retirement because he faced immense pressure to declare the case a suicide, despite evidence pointing to murder. His career sacrifice exposed the powerful forces working behind the scenes to bury the truth. The third CBI team took a more scientific approach, conducting tests with a doll matched to Sister Abhaya's size. These experiments conclusively demonstrated that her injuries could not have resulted from an accidental fall into the well, further dismantling the suicide theory that officials had clung to for years. Throughout this painstaking process, Puthan Parakal paid a heavy personal price. Death threats arrived at his door. Powerful figures attempted to discredit him. The combined institutional weight of church and state pressed down upon a single citizen who refused to stop asking uncomfortable questions. Yet he remained steadfast, turning what could have been a brief period of activism into a life-defining mission. 15 years into Sister Abhaya's case, while Puthan Parakal continued his relentless pursuit of justice, a most unlikely witness stepped out of the shadows. In the world of criminal investigations, sometimes truth emerges not from those with pristine reputations, but from those who live in society's margins, people who see what others don't because they move through the darkness unnoticed. In 2007, a petty thief named Adhikar Raju came forward with testimony that would shatter the wall of silence surrounding the convent murder. Raju admitted something few would voluntarily confess. He had been at St. Pius X convent the very night Sister Abhaya died, planning to steal copper rods from the building's roof. But what he witnessed during his criminal endeavor proved far more significant than his intended theft. Through the darkness of that fateful night, Raju observed Father Thomas Cotto sneaking onto the convent grounds. Following behind him were two more figures that would later become central to the investigation: Father José Puthrakale and Sister Sephai. These three individuals, moving furtively through the convent in the dead of night, had no idea their actions were being witnessed by a thief hiding in the shadows. When news of Sister Abhaya's death spread through the community, Raju made a decision that defied self-preservation. He approached police to report what he had seen. Instead of treating him as a witness, authorities immediately turned him into a suspect. The system that had worked so hard to bury Sister Abhaya's truth now had a convenient scapegoat, a known criminal whose word would easily be dismissed against that of respected religious figures. Police detained Raju for 58 excruciating days. During this time, they subjected him to various forms of torture, desperate to extract a false confession. When physical coercion failed, they turned to bribery, offering him money, a house, and even education for his children. Life-changing opportunities for a man of his circumstances, all in exchange for one simple lie: claiming he had murdered the young nun. Most remarkable was Raju's response. Despite having every incentive to accept these offers and protect himself, he refused to falsely confess. A man society had labeled a criminal, stood firm on principle, insisting on the truth, even as powerful institutions worked to silence him. His testimony remained unwavering. He had seen the two priests and the nun at the convent that night, and he would not be coerced into saying otherwise. The impact of Raju's testimony was profound. In 2008, the CBI finally named Father Thomas Kotor, Sister Sefi, and Father Jose Puthrakale as suspects. Defense attorneys predictably attempted to discredit Raju by highlighting his criminal background. Yet this strategy backfired spectacularly. His willingness to admit his own wrongdoing while refusing substantial bribes only strengthened his credibility. What reason would a thief have to fabricate such a specific story and endure torture to maintain it? With Raju's testimony finally forcing authorities to name the three suspects, investigators turned to science to extract the truth from those who had maintained their innocence for 16 years. But what happened next would expose a level of evidence manipulation that transformed the case from mere murder into something far more sinister, a coordinated effort to protect the powerful at all costs. The narcoanalysis tests, a controversial procedure where subjects speak under the influence of truth serum, were conducted by Dr. Molini on Father Thomas Kotor, Sister Sefi, and Father Jose Puthrakale. The recordings were then sent to the Kerala courts, presumably to be reviewed as part of the legal proceedings. But when forensic experts at the Central Forensic Science Laboratory analyzed these recordings, they discovered something shocking: digital fingerprints of deliberate tampering throughout all three testimonies. The manipulation was systematic and extensive. Father Kotor's 32-minute recording had been edited more than 30 times, nearly once per minute. Sister Sefi's 18-minute testimony contained 23 edits, while Father Jose's 40-minute recording showed 19 instances of tampering. Someone had meticulously altered these chemically induced confessions, raising the question what truths were so dangerous they needed to be erased. Before the courts could demand access to the original, unaltered recordings, something unexpected happened. The tampered narco test videos mysteriously appeared on local television stations across Kerala. Despite the editing, what remained in these leaked recordings painted a clear picture of what had happened that night. The tests revealed the final moments of Sister Abhaya's life, how she had woken early as planned to study, walked to the kitchen for water, and accidentally stumbled upon Father Kotor, Father Jose, and Sister Sefi in a compromising sexual situation. According to the narco test results, what followed was brutal and swift. When Sister Abhaya discovered them, Sister Sefi struck her on the head with an axe. The three then disposed of her body in the convent well, beginning the decades-long cover-up that would follow. Yet even with these revelations, justice remained frustratingly elusive. In 2009, Father Kotor and Sister Sefi were released on bail. 9 years later, in 2018, Father Kose was completely acquitted due to what the court called insufficient evidence. The case continued to drag through the legal system for another decade, with countless hearings and delays. Throughout this period, Puthan Purakal and his action committee maintained their relentless pressure on authorities, refusing to let Sister Abhaya's case fade from public memory. The final chapter of this saga would not come until December 2020, nearly 3 decades after Sister Abhaya's murder. In a landmark verdict, the CBI court sentenced Father Thomas Kotor and Sister Sefi to life imprisonment, imposing a fine of 5 lakh each. The court also added concurrent 7-year sentences and additional 50,000 fines for the destruction of evidence that had hampered the investigation for decades. The Sister Abhaya case has revealed deep fissures within Kerala's religious landscape. As justice finally arrived after 28 years, the impact reaches far beyond the courtroom. According to Jamon Puthan Purakal, the Church's reluctance to address serious crimes committed by clergy has created a widening gulf between the institution and its followers. This case didn't just expose individual wrongdoing, it uncovered systemic issues of corruption and institutional protection that have forever changed how many view religious authority in the region. The decades-long struggle for justice has prompted serious discussions about reforming investigative procedures in similar cases. What began as a suspicious death in a convent ultimately forced an entire society to question powerful institutions that once seemed beyond reproach. Sister Abhaya's story reminds us that true justice often depends not on established systems but on ordinary individuals willing to stand against overwhelming odds. In her memory, perhaps the most meaningful legacy will be the reforms that prevent similar cover-ups from happening again.